In today's episode, we're going to focus on the parabolic upside phase because we've only just begun it really, and when we compare this to historical tendencies, you can notice that we're only in the very beginning stages of that parabolic phase of the cycle, but we have to better understand this phase so that we can navigate it appropriately, and that's what we're going to be discussing in today's video. So subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future, and let's dive right into it. But before we dive into it, let's first have a quick message from our sponsor. Our sponsor for today's video is bitfinex, and they are a really great crypto exchange for you to consider for your daily crypto trading and investing. They are a no KYC, no VPN futures exchange, and their liquidity is on par with the top exchanges. Users can trade over 250 trading pairs with up to 125x leverage without restriction. And to celebrate our partnership with bitfinex, we're running a very special offer. From November 27th until December 7th, you can sign up using my link in the description down below and deposit USDT Tether to get 20% rebate. The rewards will be distributed on the very next working day, and for more information, check out the link in the description down below. Thank you once again, bitfinex, for sponsoring this video, and let's dive right into this episode where we'll be talking about the parabolic phase of the cycle. You can see that this is month 1 in breaking the old all-time high region of resistance, and that is essentially the very first signal to kickstarting the parabolic phase in the cycle. This black horizontal level, we see the analogous level like this across cycles. In 2020 and 2021, this was the level 19,000. Roughly speaking, 20k. That was the old all-time high resistance. Here in this cycle, the analogous level was 69k, and in the previous cycle of 2017, it was, of course, a little bit lower than that, 1,200 approximately speaking. And so in each of these cycles, breaking the old all-time high major resistance, that first monthly candle is the very early sign of that parabolic phase of the cycle beginning. So this orange circle just showcases to us that we're very much in the very early stages of the parabolic phase of the cycle. And just to better understand the magnitude of what could happen next, we've seen in the past that we can see quite a few monthly candles produce in the coming months. So in this cycle right over here, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months worth of upside. In this cycle, in 2020, 2021, we saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So here we saw 9 months of upside. Here we saw 12 months of upside. And this is month 1. So if we're talking about 9 months of upside, 12 months of upside, this is month 1 out of a possible 9 at the least, or a possible 12 at most. And it just goes to show how early we are on this parabolic phase of the cycle. It really will be quite a few months before we start to even consider a peaking in Bitcoin's price action. This orange circle just really represents where we are right now, and it's still very early stages. And when we talk about when this breakout to new all-time highs and the parabolic phase of the cycle, when it begins, there's always a certain amount of time after the halving where that occurs. And you can see here that we really broke out right on time, really. If we compare this portion of price action in 2021 and this portion of price action, look how that perfectly really mirrors this breakout. And if we do the same thing in 2017, you can see that 2017, it took a little bit longer, maybe a month or 2 longer, to break out after the halving into the parabolic phase of the cycle. But nonetheless, history doesn't have to technically repeat itself picture perfectly, but it does often rhyme, and the rhyming has been impeccable in this cycle where we broke out from this macro downtrend to enter the new uptrend to new all-time highs. Same thing in this cycle as well, breaking that downtrend, rallying post-halving to new all-time highs, and same thing here. So we're seeing a repetition of these cycles, and it's incredible to see that, really. And the same thing goes for when we bottom prior to the halving. So let's start off perhaps with this cycle right over here. When we bottom prior to the halving, it takes roughly the same amount for us to then later peak in the bull market, which is really fascinating to see these sort of tendencies repeat. You can see the same thing here. Bear market bottom before the halving, and then we peak roughly the same amount of time after the halving. And that's the beauty of this cyclicality that we see in Bitcoin's price action, because the same thing happens here. Bear market bottom before the halving, and then we see the same sort of upside, and then of course picture perfect shape of this rectangle, which we can essentially copy paste from pre-halving to post-halving, and then we come up with a bull market peak. So you can just see how we've already seen this amount of price action, or at least this amount of months take place, and in fact we have the same amount of time at least for us to enjoy the parabolic phase of the cycle, and then some, until we finally peak in the cycle. So it's pretty phenomenal to see how we can see this cyclicality to better understand this parabolic phase of the cycle in a lot of detail. And just on the note of that parabolic upside and how we tend to see the cyclicality in full view and full force, in mid-October of 2023, I spoke about how Bitcoin tends to break to new all-time highs 214 days after the halving, and based on this, we could see a new all-time high in November 2024. Of course, I didn't foresee that we'd see a new all-time high in the pre-halving period. That's something that maybe nobody could foresee. But when it comes for that new all-time high after the halving in November 2024, then you guessed it. It just repeated perfectly. 214 days after the halving, we broke to new all-time highs. And it's phenomenal to see that happens in every single cycle, that we break to new all-time highs 214 days after the halving. It's that cyclicality that is absolutely incredible, whereby 214 days after the halving, in 3 cycles now, we've seen without fail 214 days after having a new all-time high, and kickstarting essentially the parabolic phase in the cycle with these black circles right over here. We then see fantastic upside for the remainder of the parabolic upside phase, but we have to understand that in the future we're going to have to consider a bear market taking place. That is natural, part and parcel of any cycle. We see absolute phenomenal parabolic bull runs take place, but then we see a year-long bear market take place. And if you just do this as well, what we've been doing throughout the whole video, copy pasting really these bear cycles or bull cycles, it's really copy paste in terms of bull market peak to bear market bottom. You can see the absolute same take place in this cycle right over here, which is absolutely phenomenal, isn't it? We can see the same thing in this cycle as well, and that's because every bear market tends to last a year's worth of time. So if this was 2022, this was 2018, and this was 2014, you can notice that each of these years is separated by 4 years worth of time. So that naturally means that in 2022, long still way ahead, or at least in 2026, apologies, we're going to see a bear market take place. So 2024 is going to be phenomenal, of course. We're already seeing that. But we're going to see this parabolic upside take place deep into 2025. And then we're going to have to consider a bear market coming after 2025, the majority of which is going to play out in 2026. But of course, that bear market is probably going to begin deep in 2025 as well. Just notice how the bear market takes place a handful of months before the bear market year triggers. And you can see that December 2017 is the bull market peak and then bear market beginning. In 2013, December 2013 as well is that bear market peak, and in 2021 November is where we saw that bull market peak and beginning of the bear market. So just looking at that, we can notice that the bull market peak and bear market beginning could take place at the latest in November, December 2025. There is reason to believe it could occur a little bit earlier, but at most, history is suggesting to us that we should really be out of the market by November, December 2025. That's just the reality of the cycles, and I've just spoken so much about these cycles in this video already that we tend to see just picture perfect replication of old cycles, and we mustn't ignore some of the tendencies that we tend to see in previous cycles when it comes to understanding where could we peak and where we could actually see the bear market take place and start to really progress with downside. The last portion of the cycle that I really didn't talk about is the pre-halving period, the bear market bottom, and then the transition into an accumulation phase, and then a pre-halving rally. We tend to see that in every cycle. It takes different shapes and forms, but this is generally that sort of macro accumulation year whereby we tend to accumulate a little bit at the bear market bottom, reaccumulate and sideways movements in this region, and then rally going into the halving. But that's the past. That's looking too far into the future. What we need to focus on is the parabolic phase of the cycle, which we've only just begun, and enjoy the fruits of our work that we've been putting in over the past several months, and for me personally, past several years, in fact. So if you want to stay abreast of all of these different moves, of the cycles, how they progress, how we should navigate them going forward, and how to make the most of this parabolic phase in the cycle, feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel here, and I'll be happy to share all these videos, all these insights with you in a lot of detail going forward. So if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like this video if you enjoy content like this going forward. I'm Rekt Capital. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Speak to you soon.